Have you heard about biochar and you've wondered how you could make it easily at home? Well, I'm Rob from Dowdle Family Farms, and I'm here today to show you two simple ways of making biochar with a 55-gallon drum. It doesn't require a whole lot of prep time for the drum, and they both work relatively well. So I'm going to light the two drums, and then we'll talk more about it. I try not to use leaves or a whole lot of paper or cardboard, and so I usually use some kind of accelerant like isopropyl alcohol. If you use the 91% solution, it works really well. Wow, it's pretty hot here right now. But you'll notice I've lit both of these fires from the top down. These are just plain 55-gallon steel drums. This one had a bolt-on lid. I took the lid off, cleaned it out, and it was ready to start burning immediately. I'll show how I stacked the wood in these systems, but what you'll see from the pictures is I stacked the wood in a straight vertical line. There, no air can get underneath. I light the fire on top, and as the wood on top burns and begins to fall down, it burns itself slowly down, gasifying the wood and creating the charcoal. This was the same type of drum. You can see the bolt-on lid. I left it bolted, and I cut a top of it out so that it would lay down flat. I don't have to cut the material as much. Once the fire is going and burning hot, there's very little smoke. You'll see that there's a little smoke on some of the outsides, or when the wind comes through and gives a little bit more air one direction or another. But for the most part, those hydrocarbons and moisture and other stuff in the wood, and it's being consumed by the top of this kiln. Now, this type of kiln is what is called a flame cap kiln. So there's a cap of flames on the top, and everything below it, as it heats up, the gases are escaping and burning up. It's critical to make sure that there's no way for air to get into the bottom of the drum and burn from the top, or it'll burn the charcoal. Now that right there is great charcoal. It breaks up once it's kind of touched or hit. That one piece right there isn't consumed yet, but this is burning quite well. This one burned down on the top, and I added these slightly larger pieces here solely to give it a few more coals. I didn't put quite enough smaller stuff on the top of this one when I stacked it. But this one is burning, it's on fire, and the only thing producing much smoke on this one is that stick right there that's kind of sticking out of the heat source, that one, and that as well. Back to this one that's laying on its side, the thing that I like about it is that you don't have to process the material quite as much. When the barrel is upright, it takes about 16 to 18 inch material that's that long. This one can take it longer, and if it's over the length of the barrel, it's fine, it'll burn, and then you just pick it back up and put it in. You just need to make sure that there are no leaves or anything that can catch fire and spread fire if a burning limb falls out of the container. But it does work relatively well. It just takes a while to manage, and I've found that the best size material for these 55-gallon drums, unless it's just really dry material, and we don't get really dry material in North Mississippi, it just needs to be no bigger than 2 to 3 inches is what I've found. Once it's beyond 2 to 3 inches in diameter, it just doesn't burn and carbonize really, really well. So now as we look how this upright barrel is burning, you can see more clearly now that the top of the material, that lighter material on top, has burned. You can see how I created this kind of chimney stack method to let this material burn down. It tends to work pretty well. Likewise, similar size material, it just takes more processing. As you can see, this material on the top is starting to be complete charcoal. The thing that I like about the upright burn barrel method is that it burns much cleaner than any other method that I've used. The problem with it is that it takes much longer to burn all the material, and it takes a good bit of processing time as well. Where this method would work the best is if you have a lot of material that's smaller and about the same size, or if you have a lot of material that's an inch or so in diameter, and you can just drop it in. It doesn't have to lay down perfectly. You can just drop it in and let it go that way. Of this 55-gallon drum, I do not care for a whole lot. It works well, especially if you have 2-inch material like what I just put in, or longer material, and you can let it burn and then put a lot of it in. But you can't put very big material in there or it doesn't burn very well. There's not enough volume in the container as a whole. Secondly, the smaller stuff that you, and if you use shorter pieces like this, the air gets in and burns a lot of the little pockets to ash. If you manage it a little bit better, you could probably work around that, but I just find that it requires a lot of management for what it is. But it does burn a lot of material faster than the upright container if you have the time to just sit and manage it, and if the stuff that you're burning is an inch or 2 inches in diameter for the most part. So again, smaller diameter stuff, it works well and it burns faster than the upright drum. Now, I have a kiln that's based on this similar design, but it uses a 300-gallon fuel tank. I'll do another video on that later, but it works really, really well, and it burns much larger material. 2 hours. This one's been burning for 2 hours and 45 minutes. So I have not been here close at hand monitoring the fire. So a lot of the charcoal has turned to ash, but you can see that it's about a third, maybe a third of the way full with charcoal. It certainly will be a third of the way full by the time I quench this fire in the next 35 or 40 minutes. This one's been burning for almost 3 hours now as well, and it is actually almost ready for some more wood. It's not quite at the point where these logs underneath here are burned. Some of these logs here are not burned that are underneath, but if I were to put some more small stuff in here and let it burn for a while, it would do. It's ready. If you're wondering when the kiln is ready for more wood, when you can break apart the logs like that, you know that it's ready for more wood. In this case, I'm going to go on and quench it. This one over here is in a similar place. Now, notice that some of these larger logs that I put on did not char completely. They were too big for this. These logs were too big for this system to work really, really well, but I wanted to put them in there. But I can always reburn those later. So I'm going to go in and quench the fire and call it a day. I tend to quench the fires with water. I use 275 gallons of water. I have a 2-inch downspout on it that drains the water into the barrels really fast. It's much faster than the water goes, and it works really well. Typically, I'm burning in an area where I do not have water. I recorded this video several months back, and just never did actually manage it. I plan on publishing a video in the next few days about how I burn biochar on a much larger scale. So if you found this video useful, give it a thumbs up, share it with friends, subscribe to our channels, and stay tuned for more videos on how to improve your soil on